This video is going to be showing you a solo Grandmaster Nightfall on the Warden of Nothing on a Warlock without the use of the exotic grain launcher ANARCHY or Lament or Ariane as well. So this is going to be a different type run. As you can see, I'm using the exotic hand cannon Malfeasance, which has some really good perk sets for high priority targets. We all know this, it works really good in Gambit, but what does it work like on Overload Minotaurs? Because it's Overload hand cannon, we put that on our Gauntlets. It means that we can use exotic hand cannons like Sunshot, etc. on overloads. Now the best exotic hand cannon, or one of the best, is Malfeasance. Hawkmoon's another, but why I wanted to use Malfeasance is because Explosive Payload is a legendary perk. So time payload, explosive payload, and we all know they wreck overloads with the hand cannons. But the Malfeasance has taken slugs, so you're going to see the taken slugs and they detonate on the target, so that counts as overload. So you can see I'm a mile away from the overload right here. I'm taking him from distance. Sunder and Blast helps out, I'm not going to lie about it, but that's why we've got it on, because it does the extra additional stagger damage when you stun a champion, whether it be overload, unstoppable, or anti-barrier. It works on all of them. But you can see the massive damage I'm doing with this hand cannon, and obviously there's hand cannon drop off. But it's still doing massive damage because of its area of effect damage on single targets. Makes it excellent. If you do not have an explosive payload hand cannon, this is your next best hand cannon for champions. Fawn is as well, but I think this is a little bit better than Fawn because the archetype of the hand cannon is better in PvE. The precision frames are actually the best archetype. Better than 140s. Regrettably, I'd rather 140s were better, but for PvE, because of the fire rate and stuff like that, precision frames are just a little bit better. So with this section you can skip it, of course. I'm going to provide commentary for most of the run, but not all of it. It ends up being really long because I get screwed up by the boss fight. I end up not getting the full attention of the boss, I guess, which I'll explain later. But I'll do commentary certainly up to the boss fight and how you deal with all the champions, etc. Because if you don't have ANARCHY, which I haven't looked up recently how many players actually don't have ANARCHY and do have ANARCHY, but the percentage is still going to be lowish, I guess. So there's still people out there that don't have ANARCHY. So there is alternative ways of soloing Grandmasters without this weapon. Okay. There's no time limit to Grandmasters for solo, because if you die, you go to orbit. So if you're 2 hours into a Grandmaster, you can still be fighting, playing. So there's no time resistance. So when there's not a time constraint, there's not a mechanic constraint, anything in the game is possible. The limits are endless. And I'm just scratching the surface with this. If there's more players that do this sort of styles of runs, then there's so much possible. Because I'm not the best player in the world. You know, out of 10 I'm maybe a 7.5 if I was to rate myself. But if you're getting some talented players doing this, but they're not, but if they were, then the potential is limitless for all the different loadouts that you can do. Now there's 3 champions in this barrier unstoppable overload, so it makes it a little difficult to get setups. Even with ANARCHY it is, because you need to really look at what can we do, because there's only 2 mods, gun mods you can use on the Gauntlets, so that means you need to go to a class piece, whether that be unstoppable, void melee, overload, pulse grenade, arc grenade, sorry, overload arc grenades, or the hammer of the Warmind mod. Utilize that. So what I opted to do was unstoppable void melee. You're going to see me use that now. Unstoppable void melee, anti-barrier scout, and of course overload hand cannon. Now it's very peculiar how the void melee works. Did you see that Sunder and Blast works on void melees, unstoppable melees? That I found very interesting. I didn't know that that would work like that, but it does. So that's actually fun. Sometimes you'll get your void melee back, sometimes you won't. I think there's unstoppables later on where you'll see it. It's kind of weird how this works, because what it is, the void melee on Attunement of Chaos top tree gives you your grenade back when you melee a target. Now if you have your grenade already, then it's not going to do that, which means the melee won't consume. So I'm not 100% what's going on, because if you definitely use your nade, your melee consumes and you can't stop them again. On top 3 Sentinel, you have infinite void melee unstoppable, but on Warlock you don't. But that's fine, because some unstoppables you need to clear instant, some of them you don't. The ones that need to be instantly killed, we have a Nova Bomb for those. The ones that we can take our time with, we can retreat, get ammo, and do them in 2 stuns. If we do have our melee consumed, because obviously it's melee unstoppable. That barrier champion there was pretty simple for me because I had a load of bricks on the floor. I will mention about this royal entry that this is the best, one of the best rockets in the game for Grandmaster Nightfall. Why is that? It's not the best rocket in the game for raids, no. But for Grandmasters, yes. Because you have the ability to 2 rocket a champion. You also have the ability of more ammo because you've got field prep. You get more ammo on the floor and you get more ammo per brick on the floor. And that stacks with ammo finders and scavengers. This is one of the best rockets in the game for solo play for Grandmasters. Hands down. Auto and last impression, not as good in my opinion, because you'll get less ammo for it. You'll do more ammo per shot, more damage per ammo, but you get less of it. So that's the thing. So this has field prep clown cartridge, but any rocket you can make work, I guess. Just make sure you get them ammo finders on. They do stack, double rocket ammo finder, etc. Just make sure you put them on in the setup. My resistance mods are solar damage resistance, concussive dampener with a tier 4 resilience. That is all you need. You don't need to be speccing for high resilience stats. I see a couple of people mentioning if you use tier 6 resilience you survive this, that and the other. You really don't need any of that stuff. As long as you don't go below tier 4 or tier 3, I would say. I have done a Grandmaster solo below tier 3. And I've done it and I didn't even realise. Someone pointed it out to me on a video and said, oh, you had tier 3 resilience on. Don't know how you done this. And I also spoke to them and said, well, actually I didn't even realise I had tier 3 resilience on. Which means it doesn't matter. What matters is the concussive dampener and the resist mods and specking the right resistance for the job in hand and what you're doing on the Nightfall. That is more important than your resilience, but don't go below tier 3, definitely not. I'm going to take out this minor adds first, the legionaries. Then we'll take out the Colossus, which we can take him from a great range. We've got rockets, we've got grenades, etc. He's not too difficult. Don't get too close because you'll aggro him. So I've de-aggroed him. If you saw that little second or so I stepped back, it de-aggroed him. It stopped him from firing his arc hand cannon arrows. His arc, whatever it is. Whatever that weapon is. We should get an exotic for that. Like we did for Hero Apparent. We should get whatever he's got in his hands. That would be actually interesting. Always keep an eye on your ammo drops. As I said, I can get up to 4 shots per brick for my rocket launcher. If it's an ammo finder brick, it may be 2, it may be 1. But it's very good for ammo, this rocket launcher. So with this hand cannon Malfeasance, you're going to see me use it a lot on ads, and you'll see, because of a miner being very tanky on Grandmasters, they're kind of like a high priority target themselves because they have so much HP. But that's where Malfeasance comes in. Because the tankier the target is, the better, because there's more chance for the slugs to do that damage before the ad dies. In a Legend Nightfall or a Adept Nightfall, the ad will probably die to your hand cannon before your slugs detonate. Because it needs a couple of shots to detonate. I don't know how many exactly that is, because this is my first time using this hand cannon in a long time. I used it when I first got it and never really used it again. But I'm not sure. I think you take 5-6 shots, you get the slugs to detonate. Be careful of the modifier shocker. Goblins leave arc pearls. Let all that stuff despawn before you push up. Now I'm trying to get some grenade damage on this Hydra without him seeing me. I missed my nade there, which was bad play on my part, but that's fine. If you want to take the Hydra out first before spawning in the ads, do it from here. If you want to use a rocket too, you can, but don't use too much. You want to see how many rocket ammo drops you're going to get before you start using all that ammo. So use your scout. My scout's a god roll 1, it has explosive payload, 4th times the charm. You don't need the 4th times the charm. So if you have at least minimum an explosive payload scout, you're good to go. Put a major spec in it. You could put backup mag, but I've got major spec in mind. It'll help you out getting them stuns with less ammo. So say you've got 5 in the mag, you can actually stun an anti-barrier shield on GM solo with 5 bullets. A normal scout can't do that. A normal scout's going to take maybe 6, 7, 8, depending on the archetype of the weapon. So when you spawn in the additional adds when the Hydra's killed, you want to take a good look at the snipers, strafe left and right on the stairs. If you get a cell, try and get that cell, but get it safely. Don't risk. If you get one shot, you need to retreat. You must retreat. Because you're in danger of getting sniped again, or the Minotaur from the back of the room can kill you. Although all host of things can happen at these stairs. So head glitch on the stairs as much as possible, strafe as much as possible, but let your grenade do the work. If you can't kill the adds, at the very minimum, you need to tag those adds with your gun. So if the train does kill them, that's fine. You will still get ammo. The problem is, if you don't tag the adds and the train kills the add, you won't get ammo. And that's a massive deal. Even getting primary ammo is so important. Because if you're out of barrier and you're fighting the barriers, you're screwed. You're going to have to waste all your ammo, and you don't want to be doing that. So manage your ammo accordingly. I'm going to double rocket this barrier on the left, because this is the hardest part of the room, in my opinion. So it's well worth me spending the 2 rockets so that I'm not messing around with a barrier, because it only takes 1 train to screw up your timing and the barrier could fully regen, and you don't want that. Sundrum Blast, you can see there's helped me out. Getting the stuns, as I said, it doesn't just work on overloads, works on all champion stuns. We had an ammo brick behind us which we were aware of, which I was going to go and get for this. The second barrier we come here, solar resistance helped me out there from getting 1 shot. Without solar resistance, you're going to get 1 shot, so it pays dividends to put it on. We'll lead with a grenade and a healing rift. Then we're going to use a Nova Bomb, because there's no real place I need to use that. Now I was very lucky there. If you notice, my rocket hit, I don't know if it hit the train or went through the train, I don't know what happened, but that rocket could have killed me, the detonation blast. I was just rushing that champion, so try not to do that, because I could have killed myself. It's important you take out one of the Void Minotaurs. There's 2 Void Shields. Use a rocket, it's well worth doing, because it'll speed things up for you, if you've got roll entry. If you're using maybe a Sleepless with Vorpal Weapon, which does come with that perk, that's an amazing rocket. Use it. I don't know if it's got field prep on it, I think it has. I think you can get field prep on that rocket. You could on the old version. If you've got a field prep solar one, use that. If you've got His and Vengeance, use that. That's fine, because you've got Void on your Scout, so you have the ability to break shields. Don't worry about shields in this. It's not a Nightfall where you're struggling to break shields. It's only Void. There's solar at the end, but you don't take that. You don't take that shield down. You don't need to. So now we've spawned the mini boss in the Minotaur. We're gonna see how many adds are alive, because what I'm doing here is he's trying to kill as many adds as possible to get as much heavy on the floor. So even if I get 2 bricks on the floor, that's 8 shots. That's nearly all my ammo reserves. I could have played this bit faster, 100%. I should have used more rockets as well. I didn't realise how much heavy I did have on the floor, but I had quite a lot. But from the stairs here, you can head glitch this boss. He can sometimes hit you with his void attack. Your concussive dampener will help out against that. Just while you're shooting an enemy, look at your HP bar. Always. If you get below half, go back, let your recovery, this is why high recovery is so good. Retreat, let your recovery do the work. This is why you don't really spec for resistance, always spec for recovery, because recovery is resistance. Okay? The higher your recovery, the longer you can stay alive in a fight. Resistance doesn't save you. People get themselves a little confused with stuff with resistance. It isn't something you want to be speccing for Grandmaster Nightfalls. The only time you want to maybe do that is if you're using the Crest of Alpha Loop I build on a Titan or Icefall Mantle. Rock 100% resilience, then you're good. I mean, if you've got a triple 100 stat build where you've got resilience, recovery, discipline, or resilience, recovery, intellect, that's fine, use it. But not everybody can do the triple 100 stats. I haven't got to settle for it, I'll be honest with you. myself. It's something I need to look into, the 100 stat builds. But if you can't, always optimize recovery first. On this setup, you want a lot of discipline. 100% helps out massively, of course, because I'm using Contraverse hold. So make sure you do that. So boss is nearly one shot. We're just going to keep using our abilities. Try not to do nades when the boss is about to teleport like that. Obviously, it's wasting your time. That was bad time on my part. But the boss is literally one shot. I'm going to use my last rocket. I wasn't expecting so much heavy on the floor, so I could have went down there, got a brick. It would be dangerous doing that though, because the boss could teleport on you. It's kind of random where he goes. So he has, let's see, he has 4 teleport locations. He has middle, he has top mid, then there's 2 locations on the left hand side. So it is dangerous going in middle like that. But if all the ads have died and it's just you and the boss, you could do it. Because I had more heavy bricks on the floor. But regardless, make sure, as I said, you're going with as much ammo, primary, all your hand cannon, your scout, your rocket. Make sure you're doing that. Obviously, you can do this run with Anarchy. I've already done it. You can do this run with Ariana's Vow. I haven't done a run with that, but you can. You can do a run with Lament, which Lament works really good for this. You can use Lament with a blinding grenade launcher. So Lament would be your barrier. A Truth Teller or any energy gel would be your blinding grenades, or you could even use a kinetic one if you wanted. And then you would have the last slot being the scout, not scout, sorry, a hand cannon for overloads. So you can make things work, you can do different things. I could have used Fawn in this run, but as I said earlier, I think the Malfeasance is going to be better, but Fawn would work as well, especially if you're using Necrotic Grip. That's a real interesting run if someone was to do that. Necrotic Grip, Fawn, and then a scout, and then with a rocket or any heavy of your choice, even a machine gun. I think the rocket works the best. I think right now rockets are sort of like, for the legendary heavy slot, rockets seem to be the best option. I could have used Breach and Clear with a heavy grenade launcher. The only problem with that is I wouldn't have Unstoppable. For how I'm doing this, you really want it, and if you want to get platinum, like on my previous run with Anarchy, I didn't get platinum. You'll notice there I used my Unstoppable melee, I still had it. See how sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, in terms of you keeping your Unstoppable melee. You just need to do, if you're not going to kill an Unstoppable in one phase, you need to retreat. Do your damage, retreat. See if you still got your melee. If you haven't, wait it out and go from there, because you can retreat the back of the room. You'll see I'm going to do that shortly now to show you. This room's very easy. It's not difficult at all. There's 2 snipers to be, well, there's 4 snipers in total, so keep an eye on those, because 2 of them sniping you can be a death. So but play it from distance. You've got a scout, you've got your hand cannon. This hand cannon actually is really good from range, because if it's taking slugs, then they're not affected by range, kind of like what explosive payload is, which I think is intentional. I don't think they've done that on purpose, because I think they have done it on purpose actually, because explosive payload always had infinite range. Ever since Destiny 1, the original Fatebringer was the same. They've always had it. So they've had 7 years to fix that. So I don't think they wanted to fix it, because this is how it's meant to be. Okay. Now, people is calling for the explosive payload nerf. Don't do that. Whatever we do, don't do that. Don't nerf explosive payload. It's good as it is. What they could maybe do is rebuff Rampage up. Let's maybe buff that back, because it was a problem, Rampage, kill clip and all that stuff. All that stuff was a problem at one point. But I think we need to bring all that stuff back, because they want Grandmaster difficulty stuff. We're going to raids that have contest mode. They're doing master raids where we're going to be under leveled. So I think buffing gun perks back to their original values is what we want, because we're fighting ads now that are swords more often. Whereas back when Rampage was a problem, there was no Grandmaster difficulty tiers. There was no difficulty tiers really. There was the Nightfall card and handicaps, but all that stuff's long gone, and most people don't even know what I'm talking about when I mention that. So let's buff Kill Clip back, let's buff Rampage, let's make those perks a bit more competitive, but don't nerf Explosive Payload. It's not the answer to do that. Okay, I know it's best in class right now, but that's because there's no really good gun perks. Frenzy's good, I must admit, I really like Frenzy. On certain weapons, Frenzy's really good. One for All is top tier. Sometimes I prefer One for All over Explosive Payload on a weapon, depending on what weapon that is. It just depends on what it is. Say it's an SMG, obviously you can't have Explosive Payload on that, but One for All, I really like that on an SMG. Over something else, maybe Rampage. This part I'm just clearing out all the ads to make sure that we have max ammo, but there's certain ads you can skip on this section, but we clear them all out anyways. This is a long run no matter how I do it. It could have been way quicker. I could have got this done in 40 minutes on this setup. The only reason why I didn't is because I played reserved, quite reserved in the run, and the boss fight really screwed me over, which you'll see at the end. He really screwed me in terms of what the boss was doing. I lost so much time because of it, probably 5 minutes, 5 to 10 nearly. So with the mine section, what you want to do first is clear out any of the goblins and stuff on the Vex. Don't shoot the crates, because if you shoot the crates, that will cause ads to die by the crate, obviously, but they won't drop you ammo. So you need to tag the ads and then shoot the crate. It's a weird thing where if you shoot crates, it doesn't count as your kill and you don't get ammo for it, and that's so important because you could get a brick on the floor, you can get ammo on the you need so much primary, you need so much of everything for this. There's so many champions. If you just count them all up, there's 3 barriers, 1 overload, 1 unstoppable. That's 5 champions. And then on the next one we've got another anti-barrier, another unstoppable, that's 7, and then there's an overload that you don't kill. That's 8 champions. Well, we're going to take 7. So you need so much barrier, you need a lot of rockets, you need pretty much everything. So it's something you need to be looking at very closely. What ammo have you got on the ground? And that includes your white, not just heavy. So the order I do this is I take the barrier first. Reason being is because I'm sitting up on this perch, it's easy to do that. Then we want to take out the overload. I think I take the overload next. Reason being is you could probably take out the barriers. I'm not 100% which one I take first. Looks to be I go for barriers, so it doesn't really matter this order. But the Colossus does. If you don't kill a Colossus, the Colossus will shoot you from here. It's a really nice place to do it. I'm going to use 2 rockets on one of the barriers. I think also it's kind of important to do that just to get rid of it. Get rid of one of the Vex barriers at least, because they can get on top of each other like so. I sort of was late on that shield break. Not late, but I didn't have enough ammo left. That's at least 1 barrier dealt with. Now we're looking at our armor. We have 35. It's not enough to take the remainder barrier. If you get a cell, shoot it because it explodes any barrels. You want no barrels up. When you capture mines, all that stuff gets in your way. Shoot any barrels because a barrel can wipe you. If an ad shoots a barrel, you're dead. So all barrels, if you take a cell load, the cell will do that. Which my cell setup, which I didn't mention, was Rasputin, Global Reach, Fire Team Medic, Rage of the Warmind, and Warmind's Decree. It's a full-on cell build. We're not using Protective Light, you don't really need it. That's sort of what we're using. So we're taking out this Minotaur still. We're a bit sort of inconsistent with our stuns here. The reason for that is my time wasn't exact. You got to be sort of perfect with it. It's when I'm throwing nades. If you're throwing a nade, the thing is you're losing time on stuns. You need to be right on him. Also, the Unstoppable will do additional damage for you. That's why I've kept the Unstoppable alive. Sundering Blast helps out massively for that additional damage. I could use rockets on this overload, but I chose not to because just to save. There's plenty of more opportunities where ammo, the heavy ammo, is more important. Unstoppable is pretty weak, so we're going to get him finishable. Again, we still need primary, so we're going to go for some primary and take out the final unstoppable, the final barrier. What I would suggest is leave one barrier alive, because the barriers will stay in place, whereas the unstoppable will roam and follow you, and I haven't got a weapon for unstoppables, so I choose to leave the barrier last, because when you kill the final champ, the mine section starts, and time is of the essence. You need to be really on the ball with what you're doing, how you're doing it, because it's literally this run. This is the hardest part of it. If you don't do this bit, the mines will wipe you. So I was wanting to finish this champ, but I wasn't risking it, because what will happen is, even though I go into the animation and finish the champ, the Vex Goblin can melt us down. It's a possibility. So I just played it safe, killing from a distance. I found a real good place to fight the last barrier, which is a little hill section you'll see. Just looking to see what other ammo I've got on the floor. Which I think there's a heavy brick there, so we know we've got extra ammo there. Obviously don't pick it up if your max or 8, because you'll have just wasted ammo on the floor. So leave that for later. Okay? If you're ever in that situation on any like runs. Leave with a grenade, we can fight him from this hill. I'm just going to slowly take out this barrier, because we're going to need at least 4 bricks, maybe 5, 6, not 4 bricks, but 6 ammo. So there's 2 champions, we need to use 2 rockets on each of those. And then there's a void shielded minotaur that you might need to use it on. This depends on how it goes and works out for you. So you need plenty of ammo, is what I'm saying. So this barrier is not threatening, as you can see. I can easily take him without him hurting us. So we'll finish him off. So as soon as we've done that, we're going to pick up the cannon. The cannon's going to help you out to kill the goblins to your left. This is how I do things anyways. Depending on how you do it, drastically changes things. The goblins will spawn with a barrier on the other door. If you kill all the goblins, the unstoppable from B won't push you. Leave goblins alive, the goblins like past this section, so that the unstoppable will push, which means you get more time. As you can see, we've got 50 seconds from point A to capture it. That gives us a lot of time to kill 2 champions. Well, it doesn't give you a lot, it doesn't give you that much time. You still got to melt. But we'll clear the goblin. As you can see, the unstoppable has pushed us, which is exactly what we want. That wouldn't have happened if the goblins were dead. Make sure I get a reload on my rocket. I've got my unstoppable melee up, and this is, we're just wanting to super and 2 rockets. That champion needs to die ASAP, as soon as possible. Once you've done that, get on your plate. We've got 10 seconds remaining. That's fine. If you're good enough with your grenades, you can get some grenade damage on either the Void Minotaur on point C, or some of the ads, which I wasn't. My nade was way off. Use 2 rockets there, one of them wasted I think, just to sort of do some damage on the Void Minotaur, just in case they push. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. We're going to come up to point B. If you come with this rocket and emote, none of the ads push. And if they do, then obviously you need to use a nade or what have you. But generally they won't, because they're aggroed on all the Vex, you see. There's some Cabal spawn behind us, just as you capture B, so be careful of that. Then we're going to work our way to point C. This is where you really need to slay. I've got additional rockets to help me. Start with a nade. You've got 20 seconds I have to clear out some ads. I don't need to clear them all out, but just the majority. We get a cell, that's good, we'll use that. But the rocket done a lot of the work there. That's why I said from the previous phase, save plenty of rockets for this. Now if the Void Minotaur does push, which sometimes he will, sometimes he won't, he didn't. But if he did, I was ready for him with some rockets. We've also saved a healing with 4 point C. Must do that. But other than that, we capture the points. There was an Overload Minotaur, just to repeat. You do not need to kill the Overload Minotaur to get platinum, but you do need to kill the unstoppable, which I did this time. This is a platinum run, unlike the first run I done. This is a platinum run, okay, which has an increased chance to get you the Adept Uzume sniper rifle, which I did get. I did not get a good roll at all, but you're more likely to get the weapon on if you get the platinum. Because on my first run it was gold, just did not get the weapon at all. Again, you might not get it, but I think it's increased chance. So with this section, I'm going to clear out all ads. Again, I want to make sure I've got all rockets for the next part before the boss, because there's going to be 4 champions. And then there's obviously the boss, etc. So clearing all these ads works out because they need you a lot. They need you a lot, and it just removes the risk of those ads killing you. But standing here will give you safety from the Cabal Ultra as well. He can't hit you. The only danger is solar nades, which is why I'm taking out the Cabal. But there is a place you can stand to head glitch the Cabal boss, which I'll show you in a minute when I get there. I'm just waiting to see how many legionaries are still alive. As you can see, they do fire their nades. Another reason why I've done this run as well, which I didn't really mention, is Bungie's going to buff exotic primaries. So I'm guessing likes of your Outbreak Primes and stuff, although Outbreak Prime's really strong as is. So they haven't really mentioned what they're doing, etc. But what they need to do is first give them all a gun mod slot. Maybe give all exotics a slot where you can interchange the mod. Or if they don't want to do it like that, where they just want, you know, for example, anti-barrier for Outbreak Prime is the only choice. That's fine, but at least give it that opportunity to be used in endgame. Vigilance Wing, I don't know what they will give that because that's a PvP exotic, but for example, Malfeasance, give that Overload. It should be intrinsically Overload. Its perk synergy with that would make it really good. This had Overload on all the time. I'm sure it would get some use. I'm sure. And if you give it maybe, I don't know, a damage boost as well, a precision boost solely for this hand cannon, it would take a lot of work, but they are looking at rebalancing a lot of the exotics for endgame stuff. So we'll see how that goes. You can constantly grenade this Cabal Ultra, as you can see. This is, you can safely take him. So we're just going to keep using a bunch of our nades. We're not using any rockets. I could have used my super even, but I didn't. But I definitely could have. If he does do his arc maneuver, then just make sure you're close to the pillar so it doesn't hit you. And he can stomp you from up here if you're high enough in your jump, so just be careful of that. But that then takes out the Cabal Ultra he's dealt with. All the ads were down, so they weren't nading me. If you didn't kill the ads, they would be nading you. So you'd have to really keep an eye on it. So we're looking at our ammo opportunities. We have 2 bricks on the floor, so we nearly have max. We're happy with that. 8 rockets is more than enough for what we want to do. We're max on Overload. Hand cannon, which you need to be, and your anti-barrier scout needs to be pretty good, because you're going to need a lot of primary for this bit. This bit's quite time consuming with the way we play it. This is very important you do this, so you can see this dialogue happening with the Warden AI and the Drifter or whatever. Let that dialogue finish. If you don't do that, you will bug the Nightfall out, or have a higher chance of bugging it out, which means this. The boss you can get to spawn in, the champions won't, but if you kill the boss you will not get the Grandmaster loot. If you want the Grandmaster loot and you want the Triumph, do what I've done just there and you will fix the Nightfall. It won't bug out on you. If the audio starts to play the game music, like when you start drop down, you're fine. You'll get the champion appear, mechanic at the left, it won't have bugged out, you're fine. There's no RNG to it. People think it's RNG. It's not RNG. Let the dialogue finish. It's a checkpoint thing. Don't rush the game. Just let it do. It shouldn't be a thing, but it is. This is how we combat it. So there's 4 champions, as I said. So what I end up doing first is take the Overload. Take the Overload from up here. Once you go down into the arena, there's no way of getting back up here. You're going to have to contend with an overload and unstoppable will push you. It's too dangerous. So what you want to do is deal with the overload first. It can be a bit of a pain at times. The overload can get out of your way. So right now everything seems rosy fine. What it was is I shouldn't have naded. The nade and the reload of Malfeasance isn't good enough. So you can see he starts to regen. And all that was is my timing wasn't as good as it should have been. So I should have just used my... If I could put a reload hand cannon on my gauntlets, which obviously I can't. If I could, it's not a problem. But it is. So try to focus mainly just doing the hand cannon. Because the Colossus to your right does massive damage for you to the overload. You'll see it in a minute. I'm actually going to do a rocket or two, just in case he'd done it again, because you could see he was creeping over to the left out of my vision. And if we run out of overload hand cannon, we're screwed. It means we've got to go down, and that's a chance of us wiping, and I don't want that. So I just use 2 rockets. Don't be scared to use ammo. If it means you're avoiding a scenario from happening that might wipe you, then use your ammo. You can always get ammo later. So the unstoppable, we're not going to use unstoppable melee, we're not going to go down there, we're just going to take him with our grenade spam and our weapons. Be sure to save some ammo, some scout. I would say at least 100 scout ammo, maybe 80 will do you. Just make sure you got plenty, because you've still got 2 barrier champions to take once you go down there, which we will once the unstoppable's killed. Because the thing about barriers is obviously they don't push. They won't push you, they just do sustained fire, which is fine. We can go behind cover and we're safe. But if there's an unstoppable knocking around, we're not safe. Just a case of judging the champion what he does. What this champion does if he's not stunned is he'll just go into middle every now and then, do his blast. When he's doing his blast attack, he's stationary, which gives you an opportunity to do a grenade on him. So that's what we're sort of judging and waiting for him to do that. Like, look, he comes out, he does the same thing. It's just a damage sink at this point. But he's close to finishable. You could get him finishable, then jump down, bait the unstoppable to you, then do a finisher, but again, that's dangerous. So I end up killing him here, I think. That would be faster again, but this whole run's more... It's just a slower run in general, just to get the clear with the gun. The super we could have used, it just depends on what champion it would track. I'm not sure. If I do my Nova from here, it might track the barrier. If it does, it's a super wasted. So I've never ended up choosing to do that. But he's literally dead anyways now, we're good. Once the unstoppable is killed, we need to take out one of the barriers. The barrier that's best to take is the right side, the Colossus, because the Colossus melts. Okay, it's Grandmaster difficulty, they melt. They are the most threatening champion in the game, I think, for damage that they put out. So this is our cover here. We're going to lead with a grenade, and then you need to be so careful with your stuns. So take your time getting stuns, because if he's aggroed on you and you start breaking the shield, he can kill you in the matter of time that it takes you to break a shield. If the champion's aggroed on the Vex, you have a lot more time to get a stun, and you don't need to peek in and out. Like, look at that. He peeked me for less than a second. He nearly got me red. Now what saved me there was solar resistance. That's why we rock it, for things like that. We're talking less than a second, nearly kills you. So they're very dangerous. Let your grenade do the work. Rockets, if you really are struggling, use a rocket or two to burst them down. Because you don't really need rockets for this champ, and you don't need it for the boss. You'll get more rockets as you go through the fight. So I was in 2 minds on what I was going to do here, because on the hunter run Obviously we're going to do the boss exploit. Now there's multiple boss exploits, and I might have been better with the other boss exploit, the one at the back of the room. The thing is, I don't like that one as much because it's a bit more dangerous. The one that I use is more consistent. You don't die from there as long as you know what you're doing. You can die from there, but generally I won't. So I like to use the one I'm going to show you now, but I might have been better with the one at the back of the room. I'm just a bit frightened of that one because there's solar nades that can hit you and stuff, and there's a higher chance of dying, and I don't like that. In Grandmasters I like to use the routes where you're less likely to die, even if it takes longer, because I'm not a believer of doing these quickly anyways. I'm not too fussed. The only time you can do this quickly is if you use the absolute premium loadout and you use the best setup in the game. And I don't use best setups in the game. Sometimes I'll use a setup that isn't as good. Now my thinking was to kill the barrier from here, then do the jump. Because what will happen is, when you try and do your jump and there's a barrier alive, it will kill you before you get up here. The problem with this is you need to make the jump within a couple of goes, because the boss will aggro on you and kill you before you get up. So you're timed. But if you make the jump, it might be a thing of go and practice this on hero or legend, the jump. If you don't know how to do the jump to get up here, practice it on a lower difficulty, even if it's on the hero and there's matchmaking. Let them deal with the boss and you can practice the jump up here. Once you've mastered this jump, you'll get it. You're okay with it. Now the boss wasn't aggroed on me, which was it was a real pain this for me. This is what cost me so much time. I'm not going to do commentary for the remainder of the boss fight, like all of it, because it's too long. But what I will say is, if the boss isn't aggroed on you, you can shoot at the floor, but this wasn't really working for me really good. The boss was sort of in a phase of just doing his laser over and over, and I'm not 100% why, because I haven't seen him do this before. But the only way to sort of get around that is to get him to spawn in more adds. Once he spawns the Vex in, we're okay, not as bad, because then the boss is sort of aggroed with the Vex and the Cabal, so he's more likely to push you, sort of thing. But when there's no adds alive, he won't. So I was finding it real difficult to do damage because he's just in the middle of the room doing his attack. So that's one thing about this run that's annoyed me. It has annoyed me because it's ruined the run. Because we got here decent, we didn't make many mistakes at all. So it's the game punishing us here for no reason. But the idea of this setup is that we have all the damage in the world because we've got rockets, we have grenades, infinite grenades, as long as you're hitting your nades on the target. So even if you've got no heavy, you've still got a lot of damage. You can use your Nova Bomb from here, be careful though how you do that. I think I end up whiffing one of my Novas, but you can certainly Nova. The solar attack won't hit you from up here as long as you don't stand right at the front of the plate. But that's all you really need to know about this exploit itself. But the rest of this clip is me just doing damage to the boss. This bit's kind of slow going because, as I said, he's in the middle. I can't do any damage to him. It's impossible now for me. A grenade, I can't hit him with a grenade from here. So it's just a case of I'll use my explosive payload scout until he gets aggroed, which he eventually does. Also, when you run out of ammo, so when you run out of primary, heavy, you'll eventually get more ammo, and you may get more heavy depending on how many bricks are on the floor. So that'll help. So once you run out of heavy, use your ammo on adds and stuff. It's still worthwhile killing adds because they may drop bricks, which you can eventually get when you get the mercy ammo, when you run out of ammo. So you can still get ammo off the floor is what I'm saying. So it's still worth it. The adds can hit you from here. Byron was using rockets here just to sort of get him to the Vex phase. When he gets to the Vex phase, we're good, because on the Vex phase, he teleports right close to us. When it's Cabal, he teleports away. But as I said, I did get screwed over a little bit, but this is still the most consistent way of doing this without dying. You're not going to die up here. If you do die up here, it's probably your fault. It's probably you left snipers alive, they sniped you when you didn't expect it. You shouldn't be dying up here. If you are, then there's something that you're doing wrong. But anyways, that was the solo on it. I'll just let the boss clip roll out, because as I said, it's quite long. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Stratagem.